All right, everyone, I can't say this enough, but the neoliberal response in the last 24 hours or so that I'm seeing on social media, among like not only accounts that I know to be Clinton shills, but also accounts that, based on what they say, it's kind of obvious what their leanings are. In many cases, they're literally stated and very open about it. It is a sort of symbol of everything wrong with the Democratic Party. One of the top comments on one of the bigger posts that I saw on all of social media earlier regarding the Donna Brazile revelation about the DNC admittedly and openly and very truthfully colluding with the Clinton campaign because they were bankrupt and they had Clinton come in with her people. And they said, hey, well, don't worry about the bankruptcy. We can give you all sorts of friggin' money, but you're going to have to do a solid for us. Clinton must be the candidate who gets nominated to go up against the Republicans. It's essentially the coronation of Hillary Clinton, which is why unmedicated individuals, when they saw the screwy things that the DNC were doing fairly early on in the primaries, I think most of us realized, hey, something fishy's going on here. That makes sense because Clinton is involved, and anything involving a Clinton tends to be fishy. It's fairly obvious Sanders is not going to be the nominee. There were so many people. And some of these people I like. I have no problem with them. There were so many people that told me I was dead wrong when I said, yeah, Clinton's got like a 99% chance of winning the primary. She doesn't really have a viable opponent. Sanders is technically not viable anyway. He's also going to get stabbed in the back. No, he's going to win. No, he wasn't. He was never going to win. The DNC wouldn't allow it. Because Clinton has a huge amount of money and a lot of powerful friends. But here's the thing. The response has basically been, the top response was, oh, it's okay. They were protecting the Democratic Party from someone who was never a Democrat. He has no Democratic loyalty. Riddle me this. If this person is correct and the DNC's motive was, hey, we got to protect the Democratic Party, why'd they let him switch over and run in the first place? They had to make a conscious decision to allow him to run. I'll tell you why they got Sanders in to run against Miss Clinton. They wanted him to go to a couple of debates, do poorly, and get kicked the fuck back out, drop out, and get a payoff to make Clinton look better because she would have somebody who actually people knew existed before the primaries to actually run against her. Did any of you hear of Jim Webb before that? No, you didn't know who Jim Webb was. Did you hear of Martin O'Malley? No, you had no clue who he was. Did you hear about that fifth wheel dude who I can't even remember his name? No, I didn't hear about him. I knew who Webb was, barely. I knew nothing about Martin O'Malley. I knew nothing about this other candidate. And as for Jim Webb, until the first debate and only debate that he was at, I didn't really know anything about his blue dog policies. But Sanders I knew about. I wouldn't have had to have been a Vermonter to understand that, because Sanders is a bigger voice within the Senate, has been, was a voice within the House, has been an activist. He's been in politics since the 70s. A lot of people know who Bernie Sanders is. Even if they know him as that crazy dude with the weird hair who eats ice cream all day, they at least have heard his name. They didn't hear any of these other people's names. How would it have looked if Hillary Clinton had no viable opponent to begin with? And it was her standing on the stage, answering all the questions, getting 90% of them, while 3 other people twiddled their thumbs. It would have looked pretty bad. It would have made her look really, really weak. By getting Sanders in there and having someone who was thought of technically kinda sorta by his fans at least as viable, it made it look like there was an actual race going on. Once the primaries were done, it didn't matter if people knew that there was backstabbing and collusion, and then you saw the revelation that indeed they had basically stabbed Sanders in the back. When the lawsuit occurred, the first one, alleging, Sanders was forced to do fundraisers that were funding his opponent while he was still in the running. That was legal for them to do that. The DNC is a corporation. Here's where it breaks down. The Clinton fans are 100% totally fucking wrong if they think that this was the DNC simply defending the party against someone they didn't consider viable. Bullshit. It was agreed upon years before that they would rig Hillary, and it wouldn't have mattered who the opponent was. It had nothing to do with, hey, Sanders isn't capable of winning. He would have done better than Hillary Clinton. I tell you this as someone who accurately judged the entire race from day one. I'm telling you this. While I don't think Sanders would have won, he wouldn't have gotten washed away like Hillary Clinton did in the Electoral College. He would have done better. The DNC would have saved some face. It wouldn't have been a crushing defeat involving someone they thought was inevitable. They gave Trump zero chance throughout the entire election. From the moment he was nominated, they said, well, Hillary Clinton's a shoo-in. And they sat there and did nothing and watched as their own cooked polls lulled them into a false sense of security. Bernie Sanders, I don't think, would have made that mistake. I think it would have reflected reality at least a little bit more, and he would have gotten more of the youth vote too. You see, you could have won the next generation. Instead, you made the same mistake that the Republicans did with Ron Paul in 2008. Why do you think Romney performed so poorly with so many different demographics? The Republican Party pissed away a substantial proportion of all the younger Republicans that were there. Now, this time around, they gobbled some of them up along with the business Democrats and the sort of anti-establishment centrists because they embraced Trumpism, which is better than neocons. It's mild reform. It's not Nazi stuff, trust me. You know, you think that it is because you've been lied to too many times by the CNNs and New York Times. It's literally fake. Yeah, it's becoming a problem that people still take them at all seriously. The Republicans managed to save themselves. In order for the Democrats to be competitive again, they're going to end up like the Republicans were in 2012. That is, Trump doesn't need to be popular. Obama wasn't particularly popular going into his re-election bid. For a while, a lot of the Republicans said, hey, don't worry, Romney can probably pull it out of his ass. And of course he lost. He barely made any gains above and beyond McCain. That's the same thing that's going to happen come the next election, come 2020. Trump is magically going to win despite the Democrats being a little bit more optimistic. Going into the midterms, they might be totally demoralized. Look, Trump, simply by existing right now, has brought growth up to 3%. He hasn't even imposed any policy to cause that. He's steeply inclined growth just by being a pro-job president saying, yeah, I want to deregulate things and slash taxes for businesses. That's all you have to do. You just have to get consumer confidence up to get that growth. Likewise, now unemployment drops another 1/10 of a point. And it's going to keep happening. Now, when the Rust Belt jobs, at least meagerly, when some of those jobs come back, people make a little bit more money. They have a little bit more at the end of the year, and at least Trump seems willing to tackle the tax issue. How are the Democrats going to counter this with the middle class, with the working class, with the business Democrats, dedicated, born and raised in their unions who are abandoning the Democratic Party? They don't care about Trump is evil, Trump is a bully, Trump is immoral. They don't care. They want money. They want jobs. So Trump is bringing these things. Okay, well then you need to compete with that. How are you going to do that if the DNC can't even admit that it colluded with the Clinton campaign? How is the DNC, how is the Democratic Party supposed to recover from its historic loss and even do halfway decently in the midterms and maybe retake the Senate? Even if they do, it's not going to do them any good. Then Trump will just run against the Senate. Oh, well, they're obstructing. I can't get anything accomplished. Used to be I was obstructed by John fucking McCain, and he'll get kicked out if he's still alive, which is unlikely. Thankfully, he's got terminal brain cancer. Now the Democrats are doing the same thing. Well, I'm trying to drain the swamp, but the swamp is biting back, so you need to vote some of these incumbents out. And it'll be easy for him to win on that platform. Don't worry about Trump, all of his fans. He's doing just fine. Meanwhile, the Democrats' superfans think that the DNC was trying to protect him from an outsider. Well, then why'd they let him run? It's because it was for show. He was never meant to win. The collusion was already there. It wouldn't have made sense for them to allow a non-Democrat to run, except that the field was so narrow. Nobody wanted to run against Clinton. They knew that this was going to happen. They knew that she was going to collude with the DNC and stab people in the back and run a dirty campaign. She's Hillary Rodham fucking Clinton. Of course she's going to do that. They didn't want to run against her and get their asses handed to them and not be taken seriously. Yeah, I'm sure Martin O'Malley feels really good that he got 5 minutes at each one of those first 2 or 3 debates to talk about his green energy plan that'll never happen. He feels really good about himself. Many, many people know who he is now. No, they forgot about it. Within a month, nobody knew who he was outside of his own constituents. Jim Webb, he feels really good about the 2 questions he got asked at the first debate. No, he doesn't. He doesn't care. There was never a chance in hell he was going to be nominated. Or that fifth wheel dude who I think they asked him 1 question at the first debate. And I think he went to the second. He actually lasted longer than Jim Webb, I think, if I remember correctly. But nobody's really sure because, of course, there were only 2 people on the stage who were taken seriously. and only one of them was ever going to be the nominee. And the neoliberals don't see a problem. Look, I saw another post, and it was someone saying, the DNC was protecting itself, and if you don't like it, the fact that then you can leave the Democratic Party. Wonderful, brilliant strategy. See, the problem is, if this were just some Clintonian shitposters online saying this, it wouldn't be a problem. It's a problem with their interactions with some Bernie Sanders fan, with a younger, like a progressive Democrat. Now, Warrenite, by the way, Warren is setting herself up for a run, I think, in 2020, based on her comments. She's embracing the idea that the DNC colluded with Clinton. She's doing that for a reason. She wouldn't break rank if it weren't for a political reason. So keep an eye out on Elizabeth Warren post-midterms. You may see things start to heat up. At the very least, she's vying for some other significant... Maybe she wants to head the DNC, like I suggested would probably be a better idea than Tom Perez. The problem is this. It's not some random Democratic layperson. It's that Tom Perez, Hillary Clinton, and all these other people basically are saying the same thing. Which means they're disenfranchising. Look, the Democrats were the party of younger people. Post-Iraq, the Democrats gobbled up basically all of the youth vote. Now they're telling the majority of those young people, very few of which supported Clinton, fuck yourself and leave the party if you don't like the fact that we are part of the establishment. That's a real dangerous point to make just to defend neoliberalism. That's a really dangerous gamble just to let Clinton save face. Look, why don't you throw her under the bus and say, yeah, we're sorry. Prior leaders in the DNC made mistakes, colluded with the Clinton camp. We're sorry. We apologize to Senator Sanders for this imposition, and we apologize to his fans. We've got some cleaning up to do because we want to be the moral party. That might work. You know, it won't get you the business Democrats aboard, but at least you'll stop hemorrhaging the youth vote. You might even survive as a party. Instead, their idea is, no, we didn't do anything wrong, and then when it's discovered that, yes, objectively you did, you say, oh, well, it's okay. You know, we had to protect ourselves from that evil socialist. Well, again, the business Democrats are the only ones that'll be receptive, and they've all jumped aboard the Trump train, and you're not going to get them back as long as Trump keeps growing the economy. I'm surprised the Democrats haven't started to try to sabotage the economy any way that they can just so they stand a snowball's chance in 2020. Because that's what they would have to do. They have to look, the Democrats right now have to hope for a recession. They have to hope that people begin losing their jobs and suffering economically. They've got no other platform. They haven't put forward an actual agenda. What is it? They sit down in the Senate to whine and complain, so, well, we're sitting down in solidarity with some activistic movement because Trump is a racist bully. That's their idea of a platform. Well, that's not going to help you with the youth vote as long as you treat the Sanders fans like human excrement. You know, some, what is it, like 10 million people or so. That's a lot of voters, and you're going to lose them. They're not going to feel real excited to vote for whoever the next neoliberal is that you jerry-rig into that situation and nominate, or rather coronate. Because the DNC will do the same thing again. The next time, the only thing that'll be different in 2020 is that they'll change the password on the DNC's email servers from Obama 08 to something a little bit harder to guess, so that hopefully we don't realize how corrupt they are. And, you know, everyone who doesn't support Democrats in a partisan manner will know that they're corrupt. Everyone will speculate there's corruption, but we won't have absolute proof, so they're hoping that'll be good enough. That's the only thing that'll change. The fact is, Tom Perez is not capable of leading the Democratic Party. Hillary Clinton is the symbol of the Democratic Party, an aging loser who had to cheat her way into defeating a 74-year-old socialist. That's the problem with the Democratic Party. You think that you're strong? That you're going to go into the midterms or 2020 having an advantage? Oh, good luck to you. You know, God bless you for being naive, I suppose. It's not going to happen. Democrats are at a loss of how to actually respond to what Trump's doing. They're hoping they can just have the legacy media browbeat Trump and his fans for 2 years, and that magically that'll help them win the midterms. That's their only goal right now. You can be sure money's changing hands. That's also why they're trying to censor alternative media. They're desperate to try to suppress people like me before the midterms so that they can have fewer people telling them how stupid they are, because they don't want our fans collectively realizing that won't work. The alt media is not going anywhere. In fact, attacking it just makes it seem to grow more. So good luck to you. You're crazy if you think you've got an advantage. Those polls saying the Democrats are up 10 points literally mean nothing. Doesn't matter if people like the corrupt Democrat a little bit more than the corrupt Republican. Trust me, that's not a platform either. And on a larger scale, you got to realize that because of social media, people who aren't even constituents of a race now can weigh in on the race. You have a scandal that erupts. And before, where it might have taken a week for people to know and nobody outside of the state really cared, all of a sudden everyone knows within a couple of hours. It makes it real easy to damage a politician's credibility. Whether they're a Republican or a Democrat makes no difference. That needs to be kept in mind. Trump knows this. The Democrats so far don't appear to. That's about all. Peace out.